It's not what you might think it is. That's not a Aspen Ridge truck working on the Aspen Ridge Road there. That's the City of Fayetteville's vehicle, and it's out here to do some street work. We've got a pile of gravel there and a pile of gravel here, and here's the Cox guy. He didn't believe it when they said the road was blocked. So that guy didn't, and that guy didn't. It says road closed, and they just ignore it. Sign down there that said road closed, but they didn't look at it with any belief. But here it is. That's pretty closed. Pretty close to not room to walk or bicycle. Pretty close. Water. Water line way down the street. And we have to admit it needs that. Nobody's going to complain even though the noise goes up. It irritates them all day. It did need this work done. All the way down through here. Gotcha.
Be on there this year, but unless that person doesn't end up being, and then Jamie will. And it was small.
What was that? Now Dad has made a big mound there. Whoa. We hope to have the identification soon. Yeah. If you know, say it out loud. See how those three, each one on the top two have right and left extremities rise up, and then the third one in the middle, they're equal. And this second stem has only two, and they're both equal. And that seems to be the pattern on some of the other small ones. Well, they're just little delightful things.
They're in Carl's Park.
Coming up, and then I think that's broom sedge, and then there's another Indian grass, and all those things are coming up.
It's got a little green.
And then some of the stuff I mean, we tried to move, but that looks like it's still a little more Indian grass. And then, if I'm not mistaken, this is either aster or primrose that's just spread. I don't know what it is.
I'm not sure.
But wait.
We'll know before long.
Wait and then move it out. And this is coming up. Like, we moved all these plants, but then still some of the roots are coming up too, you know? Like these little Indian grasses. And then I'm not sure what this is something, but I don't know what it is.
Me neither.
Some kind of forb that I moved, you know, I was moving those plants from Ruth Park, and some of them.
Here's one with something's coming up under this stuff.
That's what same thing as this, whatever
Paper.
it is.
Paper works, but we don't need it forever. All the benches look great.
Oh, I know. More fill in that circle, fill in the circle.
Well, just having a few up by Earth Day will be great.
Well, as you can see, once he has time and energy, it doesn't take him that long.
Well, no, he didn't even wake me up.
He's quick. Hey, Fins. What are you up to? Trouble. Trouble? I can relate to that. What's up, Fins? Got your shades on, dude?
What's his name?
This is Ben.
That's Ben.
You're not
Let me see your eyes, Ben. Cool shades. Let's see your eyes.
I mean, I slept until 11.
Oh.
Why, you just had so much to do?
Oh, well, I'll turn the camera off if you're not going to let me see your eyes.
You're crazy.
It's just that time in my life.
Okay, jump for me. You're getting pretty high. Actually, you're going pretty high. What you got on your head? Greenlee's shy about her picture. You're not shy, are you? Here's an example of honeysuckle at its strongest. Starting out, that tree was planted possibly 2 months ago. Today's the 1st of April. And he hasn't even budded yet. And it already looks green because honeysuckle has grown up around it, even though it was cleared away from it. It was planted. Not a good sign. Straight up oak tree is showing signs of buds on its limbs. The tips up high, pretty visible. That's wonderful. Almost gate. I'm not sure what that is. I'm betting it's a native. I'm betting he'll have a hard time surviving right here in the track, the path, but looks good right now. pond after being cleared this spring. This one here are the Boy Scouts and their friends near the southwest corner of World Peace, Island Prairie. Well, since no one could predict I would be at right this spot, I assume it's not an April Fool's Day joke that I'm finding my first box turtle for the year right here near the southwest corner of World Peace Wetland Prairie. Let's see if he's actually alive and awake and kicking. Oh, cave flu. Well, this is just pretty frustrating. You see so much damage to this nice work they did on Dixon Street. Looks like that top rock is damaged at that end and cracked 2 or 3 places, and then just cracked in this end and middle section where it makes transition of height. It's all gone. So what can you say? I mean, this is expensive stuff, and it's probably been there 3 years, maybe. I'm not sure. It took so long building it. I'm not sure how long ago it was finished. Maybe not even that long. But now, since it's right here in front of this Divinity Hotel project, you have to wonder whether they should even spend the money to replace it. Because what do you think the chances are of a giant construction project leaving any of this stuff along the street intact? It probably doesn't fit in with their design. Anyway. Uh-oh. God damn.
These prairies. Well, as I mentioned earlier, you know, these prairies have, I mean, you've heard of sod busters. The grass, the root systems of these prairies is enormous. So any carbon loss from burning is going to be taken up and is nowhere near the amount of carbon that is still in the soil that you're losing. And plus, Dr. Bryan and I had talked about this just yesterday, the plants are actually going to begin growing faster after burning in that response to recovery. They're going to be taking in more carbon quicker as they're growing than they are as an older plant will.
So, is your data saying that you can only get, they're only sequestered for 4 years, so they could only be used for credits for 4 years?
So the question that Dr. Norman has is, can these prairies can only be used as a sequestration to get money off of it for 4 years? Well, the numbers that the Chicago Climate Exchange are using, I have absolutely no idea where they came from. Probably some economic model. Most of the stuff that I've read about the economics has all been computer modeling and hasn't been actual in-field testing. So they're applying this rate of 0.5 metric tons per acre per year of CO2 for conservation tillage and 0.75 for this restoring the grasslands. Well, the smallest lease that you can put in is 4 years for this, and there are people in field making sure that you're following these management practices, but there's no real assessment of your actual CO2 sequestration rates per field. They just apply that number per acre. So you could actually take this 79 prairie and say, hey, it's been turned to a managed grassland and have it for 4 years, making money on it, even though, as our data shows, it's actually putting more CO2 out than it's taking in.
I think there's a little bit of blind faith that's going on here with this program. That's part of the importance of this type of research, to actually establish some baseline data for real comparison too. I mean, is 0.75 tons of CO2 per acre per year, is that appropriate in Iowa, or is that appropriate here? Is that appropriate in the Great Plains? It's treated all as one.
I'd expect to plateau at some time. I just didn't think it'd be equivalent to 4 years.
Neither did we.
Man, one right behind you, Dr. Daniel.
Did your 10 to 20 centimeter depth samples follow the same trend? And what about below that? My preconceived notion is those natives would actually have more organic matter with depth below.
Well, if I had done any of analysis on the 10 to 20 centimeters, I could tell you, but I haven't conducted any, done any statistics on it, or all the research I've done so far has been specifically on the 0 to 10 this time. And Dr. Slayton, I think, was actually before you, Dr. Daniel.
You said that the total soil nitrogen, you expected it to decrease?
Yes.
When you restored the prairie?
Yes.
What? Can you explain that?
Well, you remember, these were restorations. They were originally, well, except for the 79 prairie, I don't know the history of it as well as I do these younger restorations. They're initially grazed, and they were initially hay crops that had amendments applied to them. So in any system that you stop applying the amendments to, well, you're not going to have the level there. I mean, it's going to be used up by the plants, and so it's going to decrease with age.
Do those crops not remove more nitrogen than sometimes what is added?
Well, I don't really know that much about the actual specifics of what prairie plants take out, but I don't know what to tell you.
I think he's referring to the forage grasses, managed grasses.
Well, they would have been annually had these amendments applied to them, but I don't know the specifics of the previous management practices either. So
That just surprised me a little bit.
And Dr. Daniel, you had a question?
Yes. What if, which sequesters more carbon, prairie or forest?
Oh, forest about water.
So you shouldn't burn it.
Yeah. But the advantage of the prairie ecosystem is, like I told Burl,
Sure.
the root structure's there. If you cut down a tree, it's dead. It's not coming back. Generally, you're not coming back. And Dr. Sharpley, you have a question?
Yeah, just more of a comment. I see what you're saying, but if you look at the big picture, you're getting about a sixth, isn't it, coming back off as to what the contribution of the prairies is about a sixth of what they actually sequester for the first 4 years, isn't it? It's very small, 0.03 compared to 0.19, I think. So I'm just saying, I just want, cautious to say that they're giving off carbon and everybody thinks, oh, this is not going to work, when really the amounts they're giving off are very, very small compared to the benefit we're seeing. So, it's kind of these perceptions again. Don't create a perception that this ain't going to work. You know what I'm saying?
We're wanting it to work, and we're wanting to restore it.
And the losses are very, very, the losses are much smaller than the gains you get if you looked at kind of a, back of the envelope picture. Is that right?
Dr. West?
Yeah. What can you say about the species composition of these different prairies?
Looking at the spreadsheet that I put together after working with you, Dr. West, I've not actually done the math. I need to talk to you actually about this. But looking at the actual data, I can see when you and I were in the field, I can tell what was the primary species just by looking at the data that I've compiled. And I know what the top 3 dominant species were in these prairies, which were big blue stem, little blue stem, and Indian grass. And there were a few times that we had Johnson grass has become a bit of an invasive species in some of the restorations. And there are a few that have some, like I said, the oldest restoration has some sumac and some cedar in it, but they are primarily those 3 native prairie species, plant species that we would expect. Actually, Dr. Wolf had a question.
Well, I thought Host's model had organic matter is about 3 times as much carbon as the biomass, the terrestrial carbon cycle in terms of trees. I thought organic matter was a larger pool on that model. And you just made the statement, Dr. Daniel, that the forest contained a lot more carbon.
I made the statement that they are able to sequester more carbon than.
Okay. All right. So that's in terms of pool. My question was, you have several of your figures where you have 4 data points or 5, and basically you had a cluster and 1. How much concern do you have about drawing that line and saying this is a significant relationship? Dr. DeBoer is recording this.
I would say yes, there is concern. I mean, you're right. You're 26 years versus 5, but there's no way to know. I mean, I don't have any data for anything in between there. We had some other prairies restorations similar to these. We might be able to say something. And then again, we're treating it as a chronal sequence. So we're pretending it's one prairie that was restored, and these are the 4 different ages of time that we took these sample dates from. And we don't have the data to tell you anything between 5 and 26 years of age. And I have no idea what the variation between there is, and I would suspect that there is some.
You always want to exercise a fair amount of caution when you do what you just did, because that one data point really has a major impact on the slope of that line.
I'm aware of that.
I think his caveat to that was the future sampling. We have to go back and repeat. I mean, because this was a snapshot in time. We're treating it as a chronal sequence, which, from an ecological standpoint, is done all the time.
Sure.
And, if part of our justification, we've got these prairies of various age. What's the most amount of information we can usurp from that? It's not like we can go out and start this project tomorrow and expect to get any reasonable data in a short period of time. Anybody have any more questions? One last one.
So Lee, what do you recommend to the landowner who's got used to this credit money coming in? Was it, I think, $70 an acre coming in? That's a pretty fair amount for doing nothing. And then after 4 years, it just stops. Well, I don't want it to stop anymore. I want to keep on getting somewhere between 50 and 70.
You can reapply. The minimum lease was 4 years. So you could, to be honest with you, I don't know what the maximum lease is. So you could conceptually have set your land aside for that Chicago Climate Exchange for more than 4 years, But you're not just going to get set aside for doing nothing. If you're practicing conservation tillage and you're or no-till, you're not going to be making as much money, but you can still be making money off of carbon credits for practicing conservation tillage. You can still be making money off of your crop. I don't know the economics of no-till versus conventional till and all that, but awesome.
Tell you what, let's give Lee a hand. Two quick things. Next week's speaker is Isan Shikabab. He's going to discuss soybean response. Let me get this right. Reaction of soybean cultivars to 3 viruses. And I think Lee is going to unwind with a few of his friends at Brewski's. Anybody's enjoying it, invited to join. Thank you all for your attention.
Oh, God. Oh. Well, the nice thing about the peace gardens is now this is the city working on this water line in the street, so well, they've got our driveway blocked and all this here. Party. And the interesting thing right now, see the trains going by, but that usually is a source of a lot of noise, but it's actually can't hear it. Well, barely sort that sound out from this. See, this is relatively friendly noise and cluster activity because they're putting in water and sewer line, or in this case a water line. So it's a little different from when it was being done just for the development site. This is infrastructure that actually needed to be replaced and possibly is only being replaced because of the resident of the developer. However, the developer's not paying for this, and it would probably not have been required, absolutely forced to do it at this time if the development hadn't been occurring. The rows that used to climb the cedar whose stump you can see down there, and went way up in the tree, has been lying down since August, 1st of September last 2006, and now it's first week of April, and it's doing quite nicely, but what's happening on the ground is that you've got new growth that's rising up from its horizontal position, and the old limbs, of course, all went out in a circle around the vine. So this is not exactly the situation we were wanting for this vine, and they won't be visible lying on the ground here to people passing by in May unless we manage to get some help with putting this thing up on a trellis of some kind. We don't know exactly what that'll be. And SWEPCO and the developer haven't offered any real help with that. Let's see, these are new limbs coming out where it was just a vine, and they're going straight up, which would be straight out and hanging down, of course, when it gets actually back up in the air somehow. We'll see what happens. Amazing how in our protected area of our yard, so many birds seem to go about their business, eating and singing, plotting their nest sites and so forth, courting, and right, all this miserable activity. Bumblebee working on the kind of honeysuckle food. Oh yeah, quite a contrast. It went for the noise. We didn't even know what was going on. Let me step back inside there. Tulips. Tulips. Yeah, first time I've actually been here when this stray goose is over here really near the willow tree in the wetland area. Happy as can be here, I guess, but very alert looking around. Not frightened enough to fly away from me, but obviously a little suspicious. However, mistaken, this is a single male. This is not a nesting female. I don't believe she would have done that here. I don't see another goose around. So if it were the female in the nest, she'd have her partner pretty close. Hard to tell with Canada goose heads, but this skinny neck looks like the males I usually see. He's pretty happy, I think. I don't want to make him fly. So hawk would come back now. I'm going to sit in this top of this willow and watch for critters moving. That goose is a little out of this class, of course. Stood up a little higher. Starting to move. Really didn't want him to fly. Nice to see him fly, but I can see him flying over this wetland area. Little dust storm coming off the parking lot over there. He's in a dust storm. Well, I can't stand here forever. So we'll move along, mister. Have a happy day, please. Silk fence does a lot of good. Silk fence, absurd. What's the dove eating? That's the question. Squirrel eating corn. Pair of doves. Congratulations, you're the 1,000th car today. I don't have anything to give you.
Right there.
Which one is it?
The one in the middle. You know the trailer park? How it circles around, the house in the middle? It's my house.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to go around. I mean, we have to come this way. They're putting in a new water line, the good news.
Yeah, I know. They were digging up the yard earlier.
Yeah, but at least the water line, it used to explode 2 or 3 times a year all along the street.
Well, at least they're fixing it.
I hope it lasts. Thank you. Well, there went some bicyclists from Aspen Ridge. Went up outside of World Peace Wetland Prairie. Look at the Indian grass. Uh-oh, shouldn't look at something because they all have to walk over it now. Oh, thanks, Chalk. Oh, trees, leaves are coming, and looks like they're starting over soon, we hope, but it's not going to be done in time for Earth Day, I'm afraid. These oaks just getting started. Had that big freeze. Now we got a big wind. See these little leaves sort of dried up. And of course now an oak like this that had not actually gotten very far in the process, so you can still see old leaves. But still their little tiny buds are out. Those are not going to do well. Here's one that was getting pretty far, but ones on the tips are gone, and just wasn't much protection. Those are dried up as though they were last year's leaves or something. Well, won't kill them, but sure going to slow them down. Here's another oak, and look at the droopy look on these guys. A lot of the smaller plants are the same way. Wind's blowing on World Peace Wetland Prairie. We hope we don't lose any of the significant trees out there, because so many of the larger trees are old and somewhat shaky at this point. A little bit of green left. Oh, that's a bug on there. Yeah. He doesn't need to be on there. If that's going to survive at all, we don't want him to chew on it. Well, quite a breeze. It's nice up to a point. Feels good. It's not cold today. It's 60 degrees. The old tree that has died since they started development, it gets up, cut through its roots. We'll probably lose another limb here in a few minutes. I feel like standing out here in the rain, which appears to be starting a light shower. I bet we'd get a picture of one falling. Very likely. Very likely. See what the grapes look like. Oh yeah. Grapes are getting leaves and they look bad now. Those are frozen up. I'm expecting a good grape crop this time. I don't know what happens if they start over. Probably not a good chance for them. I see places where they advanced a ways and budded and appear to be blooming. And now the cherry tree already has completed blooming mostly, so we're not sure of its status. The leaves look pretty healthy, and maybe the fruit will be set regardless. But the birds really love this domestic cherry, which produces significant sized fruit, but big birds eat it, little birds pick holes in it. Everybody loves it. They get most of the fruit. We eat a few when we happen to be there when one's ripe before they get to it. And let's see, the apple tree. Oh, there are doves. There are big doves sitting there. See through the limbs. I don't know how close we can get. But anyway, the apple leaves look pretty good. I don't know. Their bloom's already gone. Does look very calm by all the wind and the other birds chattering so noisily. Me coming up this close to the video camera. Just sitting there across our fence above Rural Peaceful Woodland Prairie. So they enjoy facing into this wind. Very calm. The guy's staring right at me. No fear. He's waiting for me to bring some corn out and spill on the ground for him. I really don't want to leave here at all. Got a nice perch. Sort of sheltered from the wind a little there. The dog just knocked a chair over. Again, that too within no more than 15 feet of that bird. And the bird didn't react to the sound. Dogs growling at one another, playing. This is pretty amazing. This seems to be alert and watching, but I mean, this is extremely calm. I think I'll back away and try not to chase him off. Just have to believe that pair of doves will be nesting very close here. Very soon. Wind's died down a little while we were doing that. Still, there's a lot of cloud cover here, and it's breaking up in places. According to the weather map on Weather Channel, there's going to be more coming, so it's not over. More wind, maybe decent rain. We didn't have much for that. They're doing the quick pave method here with blacktop strip down the middle of South Duncan Avenue, and that man's packing down some gravel into that hole. I'm inside the house. I thought a helicopter was going over, but at least the worst of this is done, looks like, for the moment. It doesn't really sound like it when I'm out here, but it did in there. Well, we've got just a week to get ready for Earth Day celebration, and the freeze came and shut down a lot of our blooming plants. So I don't know how good it's going to be. Well, the rose vine looks healthy, even though the limbs are growing. Some of them are growing out vertical from the new growth on the main stem, instead of what used to be upward for it when it was on the cedar tree. So these will be strange little limbs, but we don't know if we're going to get it to grow vertically here anytime soon, but it would be nice to have it back up where people can see the roses as they drive by. There's the stump of the cedar. Oh boy. This grass hasn't changed much. Healthy stand of grass growing out of that hay. Should be able to tell for sure what kind of hay that was. Not much growing out of it now. They used for the stormwater cleansing process. Didn't really work very well, but at least it was what you call a good faith effort by the developers to keep that from running through there. Really looks about the same as it did a year ago, just doesn't change. By July the 4th, it'll be almost identical for 1 year. Of course, the trees and trailers and so forth have been gone for much longer than that. It's supposed to rain. We need that. Hi, dark gray cat. There's black and white cat. He's curled up, trying to stay out of the wind. Has his face covered. That old cat. He's still around her. Yeah. There he is. Here's the dove. Here's the train.